Right, that's really awful lighting. It's all behind me. I should turn the car around, should I? Hello. I want to go into a thing on Game of Thrones. And it just seems that I think I know what's going to happen to Ramsey. I do. See, there hasn't been yet a Battle of Bosworth Field, and I don't imagine there would. I mean, because the whole thing's based on the War of the Roses, yeah? Well, the whole thing isn't. It's inspired by, so it's loosely got bits that could be considered bits of the War of Roses. But if you're going to be inspired by the War of Roses, some point you want to do Bosworth Field. And the Battle of Bosworth was the last battle of the War of the Roses. It was the one in which Henry Tudor, who became Henry VII after the Battle of Bosworth, defeated Richard III and became King of England. And that ended the War of Roses because he basically banned private armies. So, yeah, couldn't be anybody coming up. He also had a really clever way of dealing with dissent. He would get everybody to sign contracts with him that said, you know, I swear I pledge my allegiance to you, and then he'd make them, and then he'd make them sign a thing that said they'd pay fines if they were disloyal. So he'd bankrupt them. He would take their money away, so he couldn't raise an army in very quickly. It's quite a clever way of dealing with things. So it also killed off the York claim. He also married the daughter of Edward the Seventh was one who was fourth. Edward the Fourth. Yeah, because Edward VII was the one who was just before World War One. Edward the Sixth was the one who was the son of Henry VIII, and Edward the Fifth was the one who was deposed by Richard III. So, well, was never crowned. He was considered king because his father was Edward the Fourth. So that's the big battle. Now, what happens in this big Battle of Bosworth, is there was a family, and I think it was the Stanleys, and they had, Shakespeare claims they had hostages. Richard III had hostages of theirs and was using them as leverage against them fighting for Henry VII, and they set out for battle. And they were a big family, they were a powerful family. And though Henry had less men, without the Stanleys, there was a real risk that Henry could win the battle, which he did. So what Richard III did was he charges in to try and... Richard III's a good general, brilliant innovator, and he is one of these guys who's a real sort of like get on a horse, ride at the enemy, sort of a general, from what I understand. He gets his bodyguard together and says, right, you know, we do this the old-fashioned chivalrous way. I take out their leader, and he charged straight for Henry VII's bodyguard and Henry VII himself, Henry Tudor, this usurper, charges in there, gets hacked down and killed. Now, let's move this to Game of Thrones. You have Ramsey, and I think Ramsey, there's a clue in what Ramsey is. Ramsey is all the evil bits about Richard III. If Tyrion is the misunderstood Richard III, then Ramsey is maybe Richard III, the one who is, you know, seen by Shakespeare. And there's a few little clues that maybe. For one thing, Tyrion always says all dwarves are bastards. Or maybe, in some sense, Ramsey is a bastard. And if all dwarves are bastard, maybe Ramsey is also a dwarf. In some way in the book, might be a clue to what he is. They both marry Stanza, and Stanza is treated very well by Tyrion, appallingly, horrendously by Ramsey. So there's a kind of a link there, very loose. I think this will happen. Doesn't mean I'm going for any kind of genius moment with it. Well, the thing is, you have a family a bit like the Stanleys as well. You got the Umbers. I think they're the Umbers. Anyway, they are the ones who handed Rickon over to Ramsey. The hostages are a bit mixed up, but they've handed Ramsey a hostage. They refuse to bend the knee. They refuse to swear their banners to him. They say, we've got a new idea, we'll give you a gift. Okay. And they're also a major family. They're one of the main families that are backing Ramsey. So, Ramsey Bolton has an army that is reliant on somebody who hasn't sworn fealty to him. You have him going into combat as a very confident, as a general, he's very competent, he knows what he's doing, but he's a very go-for-it sort of a general. He's a guy who wants to be in the fray, fighting. And you have, on the other side, you have a weaker force, led by Stanza, who I think will become that. I don't think she will be a warrior Stanza. I don't think you'll see her in armour. I think that's what I always forget. I always can't pronounce the name probably. Bree the Tarth. I think that's what she's there for. She's the fighting part of Stanza. John is the commander, but she's the figurehead. She's the Stark. She's a true-born Stark who should be in Winterfell. And I think when it comes to it, the Umbers will sit it out. They're not going to betray Ramsey. They are going to do something very, very much about sitting the battle out. They will wait to see who's winning, just like the Stanleys did. They didn't do this because they didn't like Richard III or they really liked Henry VII. They did it because they'd sworn not to fight for Henry. They'd sworn not to fight for Henry, but they hadn't sworn to fight for Richard. So he could sit on the sidelines and see who was winning. And I think that's what Umbers will do. They say, we haven't sworn fealty to either of these parties. Why should we get killed watching two very violent houses tear each other to pieces? We're going to sit this one out and see who wins. And at that point, Ramsey will go, right, we've got to do something. And he will head straight for either Stanza, which I think he will do. He'll go for that figurehead. He'll see her as the weaker person to get. Not John. John he will see as illegitimate. So he runs in, goes after Stannis. I think he'll run into Breen, and I think that won't be good. I know if I've got names wrong. I've been watching the series for a while. I've started on the books through, listening the old audio books. But I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's your Battle of Bosworth Field. I don't see why he's going to put that at the end of the book. Ends with Bosworth Field. Oh, well, that means that there'll be a very weak Lannister army facing a very strong Targaryen army. A very weak Targaryen army facing a very strong Lannister army, and something will happen there. Oh, that'll be interesting, because we know what will happen. That Daenerys will get through and that Dany will win. That simply as that. It'll be as simple as that. But I do think that in the end it's going to be it. That's how Ramsey will get it. I think it will be the Battle of Bosworth. I think that Ramsey Bolton represents the kind of like bad part of Richard III. All dwarves are bastards, so therefore maybe Ramsey is the alternative to what Tyrion would be. Tyrion, someone who's pretty awesome. Ramsey, someone who's pretty corrupt. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, see you later.